up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, just welcome. My name is Gemma Jade, but today we are going to be talking about the Jersey Devil. I want to start a series on local legends and lore, but in order to do that, I kind of need your help. I mean, I'm going to start fishing myself for some throughout every single state, but I'd love for you to send me in local legends, either from your state or even your home city. Long stories, short stories, just the paranormal, the creepy, the weird from your area. I would really love to hear it. And I chose the Jersey Devil because, of course, I'm a Jersey girl. So let's get started. So as I just said, I'm from New Jersey. I'm from northern New Jersey though, and the Pine Barrens, where the Jersey Devil legend started and where it still exists to this day, is about 2 hours south from me. But if you've watched The Sopranos, it's where Silvio takes Adriana to kill her, and also where Christopher and Paulie lose the Russian war hero, which I thought was the funniest episode ever, but moving on. As a matter of fact, this summer, my sister and I, and possibly Steve, want to take a trip down to South Jersey and film going through the Pine Barrens. So hopefully we will be able to set that up. Let's dive in. The New Jersey Devil is a beast that supposedly roams in South Jersey, in the Pine Barrens. I grew up knowing that the Pine Barrens was a place where mobsters dumped bodies. I know it's very, very thick and deep woods. It's like a huge maze where you can easily get lost. But why is it called the Pine Barrens? I wanted to kind of set the tone for this video, and I did a little research on the background of where the name came from. So the reason is because it has acidic and nutrient poor soil. Early settlers couldn't cultivate any crops here, but the plant life is pretty interesting because it ranges from orchids to actually carnivorous plants. There's actually a rare tree that grows in the Pine Barrens called the pygmy pitch pine tree, and it grows there because it actually thrives on the constant forest fires that happen in the pines. So that's eerie and creepy, right? I mean, carnivorous plants, trees that grow and thrive because of deadly fires, disastrous fires. Aside from Long Island and New York City being in very close proximity, the area is pretty much rural, and it's like just the Pine Barrens. The Jersey Devil can be described as somewhat of a Frankenstein monster, as he's always reportedly looking like he's stitched together from all different kinds of beasts. Some say, though, it could actually be the devil himself that's roaming the woods in the pines in southern New Jersey. The Jersey Devil is a legend that's unique in so many ways. The beast itself is unique in so many ways, and you'll be hard-pressed to find any other creature or legend that's exactly like this one if you search the entire world over. We know right from the door this thing, it has to be demonic. I mean, just watching the documentary where I got most of this information gave me chills all over my body. And I'm not one for cryptids. I'm sure I'll repeat that over and over again in this video. I've never really been interested in cryptids until last year when I saw the Glimmer Man, you know, in person. It really got me looking into cryptids, and that's when I really learned about the Jersey Devil. I've always heard the basics of the legend, but to actually look in and explore, it's really terrifying. It's been described as, quote, a cross between a dragon and a gargoyle, end quote. Some say it even can't be killed, and not just in my opinion, but in the opinion of many others that I've spoken to about this. And from what I've come across in my research, this thing definitely isn't of this earth. Nothing on this earth, and definitely nothing human, would survive so many shots, arrows, hits, bullets, etc. that this thing has reportedly taken throughout the years. It's obviously never been captured either, and in my opinion, there haven't been any credible pictures, video footage, nothing that has come up in centuries of reports of this thing. So where did it come from? It's one of a kind, literally. So if there isn't another one, it can't reproduce, which leads to the question, how the hell did it get here in the first place? Let's explore the legend. In November of 1999, a man named Kevin Kennedy and two of his friends were bow hunting in the Pine Barrens for deer. They climbed up into their very high tree stands and sat for just a few moments in complete and total silence and stillness, waiting for their prey to cross their path. When the silence was finally broken, though, it wasn't a deer that they encountered. Kevin stated that he suddenly saw a shadow in the tree line. Kevin described it as massive, and he said for how huge this thing was, how massive it was, it moved so gracefully through the air, it was unbelievable. Something this hulking and this big and this massive should have been a lot slower. He said it had a high-pitched shriek and was incessantly screaming at the men. So was this the Jersey Devil? Well, if you're a believer, then yeah, it was. What Kevin and his friends encountered that day has been witnessed by thousands upon thousands of people across hundreds of years. It's reported to have a dragon's tail, a horse head, wings, horns, and claws. It's like all the most terrifying things you can think of mashed together to make one giant and terrifying, ungodly being or creature. After all, let's not forget the hooves and glowing red eyes that are also a part of this beast, right? It's almost like no human could have the imagination to come up with something like this, and it had to have been created by the devil himself. Some say it is the devil himself, in that it's a corruption of the natural and intended design of humanity itself. Eyewitness accounts as to what they see when they report seeing the Jersey Devil vary so greatly. I mean, they're so different that if you didn't know that they had seen the Jersey Devil, you would think it was all these different similar creatures, but it's not. The reason for this, many experts think, is because it's always seen in the pitch black night in the deepest, darkest part of the woods and forests. So it's so dark you can't see an inch in front of you, and then this thing with glowing red eyes comes. I mean, even humans who witness a crime or a murder, if they see the exact same thing, they're going to have a little bit of a different memory as to what they saw. More often than not, the Jersey Devil is reported to have fur, but every once in a while, someone will also report that it has scales and skin like an alligator or some kind of reptile. New Jersey is the most densely populated state in the United States, and it has 1,200 people per square mile. And yet nobody has ever been able to capture a clear picture or clear video footage of the devil. It's an abomination in the woods, and we can't get a picture of it. The Pine Barrens itself stretches over 1,700 miles across 7 counties, and it's the largest wilderness area in the entire state of New Jersey. The Pine Barrens actually takes up 1/5 of our entire state. That's huge. I had no idea it was so massive. So this is obviously where the creature lurks, and it's been stated, as I said before, to be extremely fast. And in my opinion, this is why no one's been able to get any clear footage or pictures of it, because it's so fast. It's like blurry. You know how all photos and everything of Bigfoot are always blurry, right? The joke is Bigfoot himself is blurry. Well, it's the same thing with the Jersey Devil. Is it intelligent? Does it know how to avoid and evade technology like cell phones and cameras? I question how it's even considered a cryptid to be smushed in with creatures like Bigfoot when there's only one that's known to be in the entire world. Pine trees and barren soil, scary, preserved, and ancient land, the swamps and tea-colored land. This is a place inside the Pine Barrens. It's pretty much untouched, and it's said to look exactly the same as it did when it was formed thousands of years ago. Unwelcoming, spooky, evil, scary, and inky dark. The blackest black of night you could ever see, and it stretches on for miles and miles inside the New Jersey Pine Barrens. No one would ever hear you scream. The earliest reports of the Jersey Devil actually come from the early 1700s when the area was first being settled. And at that point, it was reportedly killing off livestock. That combined with the barren soil, I'm sure this was very disappointing how unwelcoming this land was to these early colonists. Think about it though. If this beast roamed the land for thousands of years, then these early colonists had to have been a real treat for it, these human beings and this livestock. However, the main legend we're going to talk about doesn't have it roaming for thousands of years. It actually starts with these early settlers, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. Think about, too, after all of these hundreds of years, all of these centuries, we still don't know what this thing is. What does it want? Why is it here? Where is it from? We know absolutely nothing about it. What's its purpose? Those are all really good questions, but they're all without answers. We don't know anything. Above and beyond all, though, everyone who's come across it, who's researched it, has an opinion of, and in my opinion, this thing is definitely evil with evil intentions. Some have even speculated that the Jersey Devil's presence is akin to the presence of the Mothman, only much more evil and sinister. It's said to be a harbinger of cataclysmic disasters and terrible events that are about to take place. I had never heard of this part of it, but like I said, I've only heard like the basic story. So this was pretty interesting. I seriously have to give props and all of my love to my home state, right? This thing, this evil, unknown, ungodly creature thing, is our state mascot. As evil and haunting as it is, we have kind of a sick, twisted pride in it. I know that from being born and raised here and still being a resident. We're very protective of the legend, and we consider it ours and ours alone. Despite there being many reports of it also terrorizing people in the woods of Pennsylvania that's connected to the Pine Barrens, it's still delightfully, deliciously, and devilishly ours. It's New Jersey. It's ours. Quote, "Come to New Jersey, see our official state demon," end quote. I mean, Bruce sang a song about it. It's like a pop culture icon in our great state. Moving on, sorry. Gotta give some home state love here. I watched an interview with a priest who says he believes, and he's definitely not alone, that the Jersey Devil is an actual demon. It's unholy, it's unearthly, it's inhuman. But why is it here? Is this why, because it's a demon, that it seems to literally come out of nowhere and then disappear in the blink of an eye? This could also be the reason for why its appearance changes so drastically from one witness to the next. I mean, one person will describe it one way, and then someone else will see it 10 minutes later and describe it a completely different way. And we know demons are shapeshifters, right? Even the sound it makes, that bone-chilling, bloody murder shriek or scream, it's nothing natural. It's not a natural sound. It's not even on the level of sound that humans can make. The name Jersey Devil itself is said not to only represent its appearance, but its very heart, its very nature. The same words are used to describe it over and over again: evil, demonic, terrifying, inhuman, unholy, unearthly, ungodly. So let's talk about the origin story for the Jersey Devil, which is sometimes called the Leeds Devil. Keep in mind here how unique it is for a cryptid to even have a backstory. I mean, there's an actual legend connected to this one. It says when, where, how, and why this thing came to be. And whether you're a believer or a skeptic, I hope that you understand and appreciate how unique and interesting that is. Buckle in, everyone, because here it is, the actual legend of the Jersey Devil. It's said that in Leeds Point, New Jersey, in 1735, in the middle of a terrifyingly violent thunderstorm, a woman named Deborah Leeds, also known as Mother Leeds, was about to give birth to her 13th child. This birth, though, wasn't like the other 12, and Mother Leeds thought something felt wrong. It was way more painful. It was just off to her. And for whatever reason, as this baby comes out, a seemingly perfectly healthy baby boy, she yells out, quote, "Let this child be a devil," end quote. Who says that? I mean, being a Christian myself, and anyone who knows anything about religion at all should know that casual blasphemy is not something to play around with. This is literally the story of Rosemary's Baby. Even if you aren't religious, most people these days believe in manifestation, the power of positive self-talk, putting positive words out into the universe and receiving positive things back. So why would you say something like that? Did Mother Leeds' seemingly random and bizarre, casually blasphemous words invite something evil in? Was it an invitation to something evil, a demonic entity, to come in and take possession of this child? Babies, infants, especially ones that are just born, are the most innocent creature in all the earth, according to most people, and I believe that too. They're so incredibly fragile and vulnerable and innocent. So could this have invoked something? The story goes that Deborah Leeds gave birth to a perfectly healthy baby boy, as I said. However, as soon as the umbilical cord was cut, the infant grew to the size of a man. Its skin turned green and scaly like a serpent's. Its head elongated and became like a horse's, and it suddenly sprouted wings and a dragon-like tail. Through the chimney and out into the night it went. It flew. So I know what some of you are thinking. This has to be some kind of scary legend or fairy tale that eventually has some kind of lesson to be learned, some moral to the story, right? This has to be made up. You'd be wrong to think that. Deborah Leeds was a real person, and her living descendants were interviewed and fully believe in the legend. It's considered a fact within the Leeds family, even to this generation, even though this supposedly happened in the 1730s. A woman named Cynthia Lamb is Deborah Leeds' granddaughter 10 generations back, and she says that in her research, she found that Mother Leeds was a healer and a midwife, but also, quote, a true witch, end quote. She said, quote, a witch in the truest sense of the word, end quote. A practitioner of the pagan religion that underlies even Christianity. And in the 1700s in New Jersey, the belief in witchcraft was very prevalent. People were being accused of being witches, burned at the stake, and hung on a pretty regular basis. I mean, think the Salem witch trials, right? That went on all throughout the country back then. Trials were also going on in New Jersey, not different from what was going on in Salem, Massachusetts at the same time. And people that were accused of witchcraft or wizardry were given impossible tests. We're going to throw you into this water now, all chained and tied up. And if you escape, you're a witch and you will be hanged or burned at the stake. And if you don't escape and die, then oh well, you'll be with Jesus then, and at least your soul will be saved. That's basically what the tests were. Drown and you die and go to heaven. Sorry, we were mistaken. Don't drown, you're a witch, you're going to be hanged or burned. Ridiculous. While her relatives still to this day deny the claim, there are some people who believe that Deborah's witchcraft went far beyond the usual harmless healing and pagan rituals. Some say that she actually worshipped Satan. In fact, some people say Deborah was so close and so in league with Satan that he was actually the father of the 13th child, which is why Deborah called for it to be a devil, because it was meant to go to its father. I told you, Rosemary's Baby. I mean, think about it though. These people would point to the fact that this child was Deborah Leeds' 13th child, and it was completely healthy when it was first born, just as the other 12 were. Do you know how uncommon it was back then for a family, a woman, to give birth to 13 healthy children? Or if you consider the Jersey Devil not one of the healthy, even though he was born healthy, but 12 healthy and perfectly natural, normal children in 1735, that was unheard of. That right there could be the reason people were accusing her of witchcraft and worshiping Satan. No deaths, no miscarriages, no stillbirths, no SIDS, even though obviously they didn't call it SIDS back then, no crib death, nothing. Her kids were all 12 of them completely healthy. And I reiterate, the Jersey Devil was a completely healthy baby boy up until the moment she casually blasphemed and the umbilical cord was cut. I mean, just playing the odds, it's also extremely rare today for someone to have 13 healthy children with no miscarriages in between. Even back in the colonial times and when all this was going on, the number 13 was considered to be very unlucky. Judas was the 13th guest at the Last Supper. He went on to be the betrayer of Jesus Christ, who us Christians believe is our Lord and Savior. I'm sure there are many more reasons why 13 is considered unlucky. That's just what I know from being a Christian, and this is the main reason I came across in my research, but I did come across with, at least 15 other theories as to why the number 13 was so unlucky. A lot of people think that the number 13 itself is demonic or satanic. Just the number, like it belongs to Satan. So basically, the legend is a story of a witch who gives birth to her 13th child, who is a winged devil and fathered by Satan himself, which transforms into this giant beast-like monster and starts terrorizing people and striking fear in the hearts of any who are unlucky to cross its path. Literally, from that night on until this very day, there have been thousands upon thousands of sightings of the Jersey Devil. In 1909, this was the year that the Jersey Devil seemed to be most active, though, in its reign of terror. And it was even reported about in all of the local newspapers. There were so many sightings concentrated in this one area. In those articles, it was still referred to as the Leeds Devil. And the third week of January in 1909 specifically, this was known as the Jersey Devil's, quote, finest hour, end quote. Thousands of people across 30 different counties throughout southern New Jersey and even into Pennsylvania were reporting having some kind of encounter with this horrifically evil beast. Several very reputable newspapers throughout New Jersey and in Philadelphia were reporting these sightings as they happened, and this was as close as it got to real time in 1909. These papers were not only filled with eyewitness accounts, but they also contained sketches of what these witnesses allegedly had seen. It said that this time was kind of a state of mass hysteria throughout New Jersey and Pennsylvania because of the thousands and thousands of people who claimed to be seeing this thing. It was a daily occurrence. The stories ranged from the beast terrorizing domestic animals to ripping apart livestock. Not just killing, mind you, but literally slaughtering these animals. Domestic and wild. The devil was even blamed for a section of railroad tracks that melted, but I couldn't really get the backstory on that. I wish I could. What, does it breathe hellfire? I don't know. It was so bad that people were refusing to leave their homes day or night. They shut down all the schools. They shut down all the local factories. Nobody was even going to work anymore. It reminds me of that movie, The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Many people believe that, as it's called, quote, the Great Scare of 1909, end quote, is what provides actual irrefutable evidence that this cryptid actually exists and is much more than a scary local legend for people to keep their kids and loved ones out of the woods. Over 1,000 people in 1909 alone reported seeing this winged devil at one point or another that year. Could that many people be wrong, mistaken, or lying? In my opinion, that's highly doubtful. That's just way too many people across 30 counties in PA alone, right? So, I mean, they couldn't all know each other. I don't know. It just sounds too fantastic to me that all of these people are lying, feeding off of someone else's story to the point where they're believable enough that they shut down schools and jobs. No, that's not credible to me. In more recent years, the appearances of the devil are becoming much less frequent, but that doesn't mean they're any less mysterious or terrifying than they were back then. In September of 1992, a man named Jody Hillman was out in the Barrens fishing with some friends. Jody claims that while fishing in this secluded spot in the Barrens, he and his friends saw about 7 to 8 deer just standing in a row and eating grass in the clearing right in front of them. He says that all of a sudden, they saw some sort of huge and strange unknown animal come out of nowhere and jump directly into the herd of deer and send them scattering in all different directions. He also claims the animal had the face of a horse, but was essentially running as though a human would run. Quote, in a straight and linear fashion, end quote. He says the event is burned into his memory and he has no rational explanation for what he and his friends witnessed that day. So, is there another explanation for this and for the tens of thousands of sightings scanning throughout the past few centuries? let's see what the skeptics have to say about it all. Some skeptics suggest that the sightings of the Jersey Devil are nothing more than a case of mistaken identity, and they say that what these people are actually seeing is a bird called the sandhill crane. This totally ignores the fact that the devil sightings always mention a tail, and that's a critical feature that the sandhill crane totally lacks. Another creature skeptics point to as the possible culprit that's being mistaken for the Jersey Devil is the hammerhead bat. The bat's face seems to be the spitting image of the face depicted most often in artist renderings of what witnesses claim to have seen. Most notably, a picture depicted in the Philadelphia Inquirer in 1909 when all of these sightings were being reported all at once. Believers, though, return fire with the fact that this particular bat's wingspan is only 3 feet long, far shorter, obviously, than the massive dragon-like wingspan of the Jersey Devil. Also, the hammerhead bat's habitat is in Africa, not anywhere in New Jersey, including the South in the Pine Barrens. There's also nothing on its body that could be mistaken for or even resembles the tail, which we know the Jersey Devil has. So, I tend to agree with the fact that there is no satisfactory answer being found in nature to explain what the Jersey Devil is or could be. Some people turn to the world of cryptozoology for a more reasonable explanation. I mean, after all, who wants to believe or admit that there's a winged, supernatural, and seemingly indestructible winged demon flying around, haunting and terrorizing the locals here in New Jersey? Or anywhere else for that matter, am I right? What do these people have to say, the people who point to cryptozoology? Some of the theories posited by these people, too, are pretty wild and out there. I mean, one of them is that the Jersey Devil is actually a real dragon. The wings, the tail, the shriek, the scales going down its back. And remember, it was blamed for melting the portion of railroad tracks back in 1909. So remember when I said, what did it breathe? Hellfire? I mean, dragons are known to breathe fire. Most people would actually say that yes, the Jersey Devil does breathe fire. Though the legend of the Jersey or Leeds Devil seems to have started with Deborah Leeds back in the 1700s, if you go further back and look at the old legends from the Native Americans who inhabited this area long before the colonial settlers came in and tried colonizing it, you'll find tons of legends of dragon-like creatures that seem to be exactly like the Jersey Devil in almost every single way. So, if the natives were seeing a creature or creatures like this a very, very long time before Deborah Leeds ever came to the area, or possibly before Deborah Leeds was even born, then how could the legend be true? The Lenni Lenape Native Americans, who are indigenous to that area of New Jersey, seemingly had a name for this area that we call the Pine Barrens long before early explorers or English settlers ever stepped foot on the land or even knew it existed. They called the woods Popising, and I could be pronouncing that wrong. The translation is, quote, place of the dragon, end quote. So again, even before Mother Leeds or the whole local legend began, the area was known to have some kind of power, some kind of mystical beast like dragons or a dragon seemed to be roaming the area and also terrorizing the natives. Could the backstory of the Jersey Devil involving Mother Leeds just be a made-up story about a woman who many people believed worshipped the devil? While the idea of the Jersey Devil being an actual dragon is compelling and, in my opinion, freaking awesome, no fossil or archaeological evidence has ever been found to support this claim and theory. There is, however, plenty of fossil evidence to suggest a creature similar to what's described as the Jersey Devil having existed. A dragon-like creature which greatly resembles what eyewitnesses claim to have seen when allegedly encountering it. Abundant evidence, in fact. Specifically here, we are talking about the pterosaur. Pterosaurs are described as, quote, flying dragons, end quote. I don't want to pretend to be a paleontologist here and go on and on about dinosaurs and fossils and periods, but this particular one bears an extremely striking resemblance to the Jersey Devil. Complete with elongated and, quote, horse-like snout, forked tail, and huge bat-like wings with a giant span to them. Could the Jersey Devil be an actual dinosaur which survived when all the others were wiped out? Some think that's exactly what it is, and they think that the story of Mother Leeds was given to explain the many sightings of this creature, of this dinosaur, this pterosaur. If I'm being honest, and this is just how my brain works, in my opinion, I believe way more in the legend of the Jersey Devil having to do with Mother Leeds than the fact that there's an actual dinosaur walking around in southern New Jersey in the woods. I mean, to me, being a woman of faith and someone who knows the Bible like the back of my hand, and just to me what makes sense, the odds of a dinosaur having survived is much less likely than what happened when Mother Leeds gave birth that night to her 13th child and casually blasphemed. I believe that's more likely and possible than a freaking dinosaur surviving. Only one. On the other hand, as you all should know by now, I am not much of a skeptic about anything. This is my job though, right? I deal with the paranormal almost every single day, whether I'm working or dealing with my own psychic abilities, my own paranormal encounters and dealings, or one of my 3 very psychic kids. It's a constant everyday thing for me. So maybe that's why it's more natural for me to believe in the paranormal aspect of it rather than the scientific aspect of it. Is that scientific? I don't even know if that would be considered science. My opinion aside though, think about it. Does this thing being an actual dinosaur make much sense? Let me know in the comments what you think and possibly what you know. As I always say, send me links. I want to see your theories, your opinions, your facts and evidence to the contrary or to, being the same as mine, my opinion. If it's the case of an actual dinosaur, there can't only be one. The one being seen now can't possibly be the same one being seen from 1909, and the one from 1909 can't possibly be the same one that was being seen back in the 1700s, which led to the legend of the Leeds demon, right? Because of the overwhelming fossil evidence, we know there were pterosaurs, and they did live millions of years ago in the Pine Barrens. But if they're still around, how, and more importantly, where are they still breeding? Where are they living? How many are there? Is this why all of the sightings of this cryptid are so very different? Because it's not the same thing. It's all different pterosaurs. Do they all look exactly the same down to like the size of their wingspan? I don't think so. Again, if I'm wrong, put it in the comments. I mean, it's very likely that if this were the case, we would have already uncovered some evidence of their remains or some evidence of like a nesting area or a living space for them. And we never have. One more possible explanation as to why the Jersey Devil looks so much like a dragon goes back to the original story of Mother Leeds. The Leeds family crest actually contains a wyvern, which is a small dragon. So thinking with our paranormal thinking caps, right? Our paranormal brains here. Does it make sense that this particular family, if someone along the line were to give birth to a cursed child, which we're thinking paranormally, so this is 100% possible, wouldn't it most likely be something that's already connected to the child, the family, and their heritage, such as a wyvern being on their family crest, a wyvern being a small dragon? Taking into account all of the opinions, theories, explanations, fables, legends, and local tales about the Jersey Devil, does the original story end up making the most sense out of all of it? The legend of Mother Leeds and the baby, which actually was a demon and the spawn of Satan himself. Let's look at some of the testimony from actual eyewitnesses and the claims made by people who have said they tried to kill the elusive creature. If modern day sightings are to be believed, then witnesses are encountering an entity that's nearly 300 years old. As far as we know, no biological creature can live that long. So for the people who believe this thing is an actual devil and that it's demonic, and there are so many people who have investigated the Jersey Devil and do believe that this is the case, its apparent age lends much credence to the demon theory. One such expert who believes that the Jersey Devil is definitely a demonic entity is priest and exorcist James Cloud. According to Cloud, the Jersey Devil could very well have such an extensive lifespan as to be centuries old or even older. He even goes so far as to allege that this monster is immortal. He also believes that the devil is being preternaturally enhanced somehow through either paranormal, supernatural, and or demonic forces, and the supposed fact that the Jersey Devil may actually be immortal seems to be backed up throughout history, which alleged eyewitness accounts and extremely disturbing historical incidents. If it's immortal, that would certainly explain why it's impossible to kill, as so many have reportedly tried and failed. In the early 1800s, Navy U.S. Commodore Stephen Decatur was on a firing range testing some artillery at New Jersey's Hanover Mill Works when he saw a creature matching the description of the Jersey Devil fly across the sky directly above him. Decatur fired his cannons directly at the thing as it soared above him in the air, and he actually hit it. So he hit the flying beast with cannon fire. Allegedly, though, the cannonball went right through this creature, and it was seemingly unaffected and just kept on flying. Almost a century later, during the rash of all the sightings in 1909, police officers from Camden, New Jersey, and Bristol, Pennsylvania claimed to have fired guns at the creature after searching the woods for it, following numerous calls in both Camden and Bristol coming in about reports of encounters with this entity, this devil. Again, though, the monster seemed to be impervious to the weapons being fired at it, and the bullets went right through it, having no effect on it. It was as though the creature was made of smoke or fog. Like it wasn't even a solid being, and this leads some researchers to suggest that the Jersey Devil might actually be from another dimension, so an interdimensional being. So according to these researchers, the fact that it's not affected by cannon fire, gunfire, and it seems not solid at all when being fired at with all these weapons points to it being interdimensional. If the Jersey Devil is in fact a demonic entity, though, that means it isn't bound by the rules of science or nature, and there's no telling what kind of powers it could possess or how long it's going to be around, tormenting and attacking humans, both suspecting and unsuspecting alike. Let's face it, if history is any indication, and we know it usually is, the woods and forests of New Jersey and Pennsylvania are going to be eternally stuck with this entity, this beast, this interdimensional being, this demon, this cryptid, this animal, this whatever you want to call it. Because of how much more scarce modern day sightings have become, I'm led to wonder if this thing is intelligent. Could it be that it's aware that it could somehow be filmed or caught on camera or have its picture taken, and that's why it's more carefully choosing who to appear to and when? Though more scarce, the sightings and encounters are definitely no less terrifying than they were back in the day. In the summer of 2001, an 11-year-old girl named Jessica Aleknavich was camping in the Pine Barrens with her 6th grade Girl Scout troop. The girls in her cabin were up late doing what 6th grade girls do, talking about boys, clothes, giggling, just having fun after lights were supposed to be out. They all had these tiny little personal flashlights, and they were just having fun. They were also telling stories, and they were doing all this into the early hours of the next morning. Jessica said they were being very loud, very rambunctious, just, again, being 6th grade girls. She said it was pitch dark inside the cabin and outside, except for the small flashlights I mentioned. All of a sudden, amidst all the fun and giggling and laughter of these tween girls, an extremely loud thud sound hit the roof of their cabin and scared them half to death. Jessica described the sound as, quote, like a thud, end quote, that, quote, kind of sounded like something hit the roof and just like rolled right off, end quote. She says that immediately after whatever it was hit the roof and rolled off, they heard it hit the ground because they immediately heard the leaves rustling around on the ground outside the cabin, as though someone were walking. The walking sound and rustling of the leaves didn't seem to be going away. It was more like it was circling the cabin. All of the girls inside the cabin were absolutely terrified, and they sensed something or someone was lurking around outside. The footprints, the rustling leaf sounds, the footsteps, were not getting further away. They were just circling. That's really creepy. Jessica says this is when she volunteered to be the one to go outside and see what was going on. She wanted to just ease everyone's fears so that they can just go to sleep and get on with their next day. So this is when she took her tiny little flashlight, which was all she had for light, and being extremely scared and frightened, but trying to do her friends a favor by, again, easing their fears, calming them, she cautiously went outside. She got outside and decided to, quote, creep and peek around the corner, end quote. She states that this is when she saw movement in the shadows of a huge tail and giant bat-like wings, which whipped around and took off running into the woods at an inhumanly high rate of speed. Being from New Jersey and also being out in the Pine Barrens, Jessica said she immediately knew that she had just had an extremely close encounter with the elusive Jersey Devil. The last thing I want to cover here has to do with a Pine Barrens guide and Jersey Devil researcher named Rob Laux. Rob talks about not only the devil lurking in the woods there, but witches as well. He's not only convinced that the Jersey Devil is there and very real, he believes the creature resides mainly in the place us locals call, quote, the witch's well, end quote. In the documentary I watched, Rob wanted to know the truth. I actually thought he was going to bring in some kind of psychic medium to explore the well and the surrounding area. However, I was very surprised to see that he instead enlisted the help of the priest and exorcist we spoke of earlier, Bishop Cloud. Both men went to where the well is located, which is very, very deep into the woods, and Cloud told Laux that he did not sense the Jersey Devil in or near the well. He stated that he felt the presence of several dark forces, especially witches, malevolent supernatural entities, but not of the devil. He wasn't saying that the devil wasn't in the woods. He was just saying he did not sense that it resided in this well. He said he felt a lot of blood, death, and pain, that it was very present in the energy surrounding and emanating from the well, but no sense of the mysterious New Jersey cryptid. While I definitely personally believe in his opinions that we spoke about previously in the video when he was explaining how and why the beast could very well be a demon or the spawn of Satan himself, I'm not sure how credible a man of the cloth is when it comes to doing this kind of sensory work, this kind of psychic work. I'm fairly new to the paranormal community though, so maybe I missed something. Maybe priests, exorcists are, somehow psychic in themselves and they do this often, this sensory work, this perception psychic work. If you know anything about that, please let me know in the comments. This is all I have for you today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the local legend of the Jersey Devil, the local legend of my home state, which I love being a Jersey girl. Send me your local legends from your city or town or your state. Even if there's an awesome legend about your country, I want to know about it. As y'all can see, I have my Irish shirt on today because it's Sunday, my filming day, and Wednesday is St. Patrick's Day. So happy St. Pat's to all of y'all if I don't see you then. Although I am doing a live stream on this channel with Steve Stockton and Ask Us Anything, a chit chat just like we do on Sunday nights. There will be links to our live stream from Sunday nights in the description box. Guys, Be sure to check out the description box for some important links on how to donate to the channel. I'm climbing slowly but surely to my 1,000 subscribers to get monetized. I want to get better equipment. I want to get a background. I want to make better videos for you guys. But thank you so much for supporting me and bearing with me. The link to my Patreon and the link to my PayPal will also be in the description box. A link to the podcast Strange Things with Steve Stockton and Gemma Jade will also be there. We'll be back to it soon, guys, but we're writing that book and it's a lot. It's a lot to do, especially being a full-time mama to a toddler, as most of y'all know that I am. This was a gift from Steve, by the way. Thank you, Steve. Guys, be sure to give this video a huge thumbs up if you enjoyed hanging out with me, if you enjoyed the video. Let's get my likes up to par with what my views are, because the likes are way down. They have been going up in the last few videos, so I do thank you so much for that. Subscribe if you haven't already, and share if you feel like this video is worth sharing. Be kind to each other, guys. It doesn't cost anything to be a decent person. It can gain you so much. Let your kindness show. It is beautiful, I promise. Have your best day. Have your best night. Please consider supporting the channel either financially or by liking, sharing, subscribing. You can do that. That's just as important as financial donations. Thank you so much to all of my patrons now. I'm trying to get something just for you guys to show my appreciation. Hopefully I can swing it. Love you guys so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.